There's a new movie out right now called Imaginary. I bet most of you watching have never heard of this film before in your life, and those of you that have heard of it, I imagine zero of you had any interest in going to see it because even just from the first trailer, anyone with eyes would recognize this movie had no chance at being anything even close to decent. It was doomed from the start. It's a movie about a haunted bear imaginary friend. It's as creatively bankrupt as it gets. I would sooner buy a ticket to watch the feature film of The Poop That Took a Pee than going to Imaginary. But I actually did go see Imaginary, so that point doesn't really work. That's moot. I saw it yesterday and can confirm beyond a shadow of a doubt it's horrible. It's trash. It's terrible. This is the latest super stinker from Blumhouse, more like Butthouse because this shit is ass. I am no stranger to bad movies, as all of you know. I have a huge passion for seeing them. But man, Blumhouse is pumping out some extraordinarily boring ones. It feels like they're not even trying with anything anymore. They just know that because the budget is so low for these movies, and there's so many people in the world that just want something to do, they'll make a profit off those just curious enough to buy tickets to pass time. So they don't even bother putting in the bare minimum amount of effort to even produce something that has a single redeeming quality about it. Like, I'm pretty sure Imaginary was probably filmed in like 2 weeks because they just used the first take of everything that they shot and then just called it a wrap and said, print it, good enough. So I saw it yesterday with Aaron. Aaron and I have been seeing pretty much every bad movie of the last year or so together, and this is definitely a bad movie that we experienced, and I kind of want to just dissect it here. Not for any reason other than I saw it, so I kind of just want to debrief about it. I know none of you are interested in seeing it, but I don't care. I'm going to peel your eyes open and make you understand why this movie Turbo sucks. The best compliment I can give Imaginary is it's better than Night Swim, which is a very low bar to pass, but it is better than Night Swim. That's the Blumhouse movie from January, which is all about a haunted pool. Big congrats to Imaginary for being able to beat that. What an achievement. The accomplishment cannot be understated. It's better than Night Swim. Put it on the back of the DVD box. Before getting super deep on Imaginary, I want to go ahead and thank World of Warships for sponsoring this video. Big thanks to World of Warships for sponsoring this video. I've been working with the World of Warships team for quite some time to design some custom in-game content, so I'm a commander in the game now. I go by Chuck Blast on the seas out there, and I'm an absolute menace. The name of our ship is the Blastmaster. We sail under Chuck's flag, so I help design the assets, the camo, just kind of top to bottom. It looks like me, it sounds like me, because I do the voice acting for it. Dead on target. I'm, for all intents and purposes, engaged in war out there, and it's extremely fun. Just as a reminder, sales to purchase my custom character, my commander, Chuck Blast, which has my voiceover, as well as the custom skin and flag, ends on March 24th. So make sure to get it before it's gone. You can of course still use my invite code PenguinZ0 as well to get all of these goodies too. It's available for PC and consoles, and the code is for newly registered players, but existing players can acquire these items by purchasing my bundle or through the new internet's containers. So you can click the link in the description to get started. Thanks again, World of Warships. Imaginary begins with a man and a woman lying in bed together, and the woman, Jessica, has just had another nightmare where she's attacked by a spider, a big spooky spider. And in order to start combating these nightmares she's having, they decide to move in early to their new house, which actually isn't a new house, it's Jessica's childhood house. And she's forgotten her entire childhood, basically, talking about how foggy it is. She's got like amnesia, so she can't remember her childhood due to a bunch of trauma, which is a really convenient plot device. So she is the stepmom in this relationship, and the father has two children, two daughters. And they all move in together, and the older daughter doesn't like Jessica, but the younger daughter's more receptive to Jessica as like the new mother. And the dynamic there isn't really explored at all past the older sibling just going, "You're not our real mom. We were happier without you. We want our real mom back." And their real mom shows up in this movie for like 2 minutes for a jump scare. So the previous wife had some kind of mental illness that was never really explained or explored, but for one scene, the mom was having a tea party with the daughter late at night and then jumped at Jessica and fell over and then got taken away via ambulance. That was the like original mom's role in this film. That's it, and she's never seen again. This movie actually has a habit of doing that, where they just introduce these characters just for them to never be seen again for just a completely inexplicable reason. So like the father here, he barely has a role to play in this movie. So they move into this house, and within like 2 days, the dad's like, "All right, time to pack up. I gotta go on tour." So I shit you not, he puts on a fedora, packs his suitcase, and he's like, "All right, are you sure you guys are gonna be okay, Jessica?" And she's like, "Yeah, absolutely. Go on your tour. I know the Blood Farts are really killing it this year on the Billboard Top 100. Go play your hit song, fucking Drops to Jupiter. Yeah, get out there." So he's like, "All right, well, I'm going on my tour." And he is never seen or even mentioned again. He tips his fedora and then just falls into the back rooms, and we just have to accept that he's just gone. We lost him. And he will never be seen again. They don't even mention him ever again, actually. Which is, I mean, whatever, I guess. So then it's just Jessica and the two girls, and they're trying to get along. Jessica's making her best efforts to be like this superstar mother, and the youngest daughter has found a bear in the house named Chauncey. And she's talking to the bear. It's her new imaginary friend, and at first Jessica's really supportive of it, but then things start getting really sinister when Chauncey starts wanting to play a game with her where she's like hurting herself. She's about to like slam her hand on a nail, and Jessica has to stop her from it, and that's when she realizes that this imaginary friend is not good for her because it's making her do dangerous things. So that's like the main plot line there. This imaginary friend is real and trying to get the little girl to do a ritual to join him in the imagination land, which is a fucking stupid concept. But there's also a lot of other things that don't really matter in here at all. So, for example, the older daughter meets a neighborhood kid whom she's like in love with instantly. So she invites that dude over when Jessica's out one day. And the dude comes over and immediately makes enemies with the younger daughter. He's like, "You're a psycho." And then that was the end of that. And then for some reason, he's like, "So do you want to do these drugs with me?" So he pulls out a bag of pills, and then he has one on his tongue. He's like, "Ah," just to show he's doing pills. And he was talking about how, like, last time he did these, his left eye could see 12 seconds in the future. And the older daughter's like, "Nah, I don't really want to do those pills. I thought we were just gonna like watch this movie and hang out." And he's like, "Fuck, this is so lame. Let's get some alcohol." So he breaks into like the dad's stash of booze and immediately breaks it, goes upstairs, and this is supposed to showcase the very first time horror in this movie. To this point, they hadn't had any elements of horror outside of that nightmare she had, which was super lame, where she gets attacked by a spider. I'm going to go ahead and mention the monster design in this movie is terrible. Aaron said it best, where he said the monster creature design in this film is just marginally better than Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, but it's a close match. It's like they went to Party City and they took costumes off the rack and then just threw some mud on it and then added some really, really quick Adobe After Effects VFX to it and called it a day. It looks awful. It looks like Mummy 2, The Rock, Scorpion King levels of bad when it comes to how these creatures look. Ugh. I'll get to it more towards the end of the plot synopsis that I'm going down here. But anyway, so the dude's like, "All right, I got these pills. I'm going to go upstairs now since I broke the booze to clean it up." And he's taking a piss, and then all of a sudden, the bear's there. And he's like, "Ooh, spooky." So he pees everywhere, and he's like, "Oh, man, I'm just tripping because I'm doing pills." And then all of a sudden, the bear's back again. And this is like that scene in the trailer where the ring's going, and it's like playing the sound effects, and the bear's getting closer, and then it stops. And then the like fucking first jump scare of the movie happens where the bear pops out to scare him, and he goes, "Whoa!" And then he falls over and runs away. That's that whole scene, and that dude doesn't have any role to play in this film at all. It's not like he died there or anything. All it was here for was to deliver a cheap jump scare and nothing else. So, like, Jessica comes home shortly after, and she's very disappointed in the older daughter for bringing this boy over, and then the boy's mother comes over and is like, "I'm so sorry, my son did this." And then Jessica's like, "Yeah, and he also brought these drugs." And then the mom goes, "These aren't drugs, this is my allergy medication." Which is, I mean, okay, I guess. So the dude was tripping off Allegra, I suppose, Claritin, I guess. It's so stupid, and it has no role to play in the film, but it's here for some reason. And then you never see that guy again. He's never even referenced again. So now Jessica and the two daughters are once again just home alone. The imaginary friend situation's getting worse. She calls a therapist over to try and, do something about Chauncey, the imaginary friend. The therapist is kind of odd, where the therapist is trying to get her to explore, her feelings with Chauncey, which leads to a fight between the daughter and Chauncey. And then the therapist is like, has your daughter taken up ventriloquism? Jessica's like, fucking obviously not. My 6-year-old daughter hasn't been studying ventriloquism. Why are you asking? And the therapist goes, well, because, it was weird. Because what happened during the therapy session is Chauncey was speaking in the voice of the daughter, and eventually the daughter turns around while panicked and crying, and the therapist noticed her mouth wasn't moving, but words were still coming out, so she's like, oh, it must be ventriloquism. And then eventually the therapist is like, well, I've noticed some, in previous cases, when an imaginary friend gets hostile and evil, a kid disappears. So good luck. And then she leaves. She plays a video of like some other kid talking about her or his imaginary friend who made him chop off his thumb, and then like the kid went missing right after. So after playing that video, the therapist is like, all right, so I'm out ski. Also, don't forget to pay my bill. And she just leaves, never to be seen again. But this whole sequence was extremely important to the film because it delivers the big twist. So that bear that the daughter found and has been carrying around the entire movie, talking to with her imaginary friend, turns out wasn't real. It was all in Jessica's mind. No one else was seeing the bear. The therapist recorded the session and proved that bear was never actually there. It was nothing. It was an imaginary friend. But Jessica's been seeing it this whole time because it turns out that bear was Jessica's original imaginary friend when she lived in this house. So only she is capable of seeing that bear. It actually wouldn't be the worst twist in the world if it wasn't in such a bad movie. I didn't see it coming. Neither Aaron nor myself expected that, because why would they even bother putting a twist in a movie that has this little effort in it to begin with? But, admittedly, it's not the worst idea creatively to have that be like a grand reveal, like, oh, that was never real. It could work, but it doesn't here, because no one cares. By this point in the film, you're already so mentally checked out, probably snoozing, that it falls flat. It really does. But, man, my voice is cracking even going over this movie. But anyway, so then she starts realizing that this goes really deep. The reason she can't remember anything is because of her imaginary friend and whatever happened to her back then. So she's connecting these dots about the never ever, and then like a door, and then she's researching it, and then the daughter disappears. So the daughter vanishes, and turns out she completed the scavenger hunt for Chauncey, which opened a portal to the imagination dimension. She's joining SpongeBob and Patrick in the imagination box land now. So then Jessica and the older daughter are freaking out. They called the police to start looking for her. And then an old woman, whom we did see briefly earlier in the film, who was previously Jessica's babysitter, starts just exposition dumping everything here. Also, that old lady, her name was Gloria. She was seen earlier in the film, but kind of just as this standoffish asshole. So Gloria's talking to Jessica about being her babysitter, and then the little girl comes over, and then the old lady immediately gets combative with the little girl, where she's like, you shouldn't really interrupt us. We're in the middle of a conversation. And then the little girl's like, oh, okay, maybe Chauncey should eat you. And then Gloria actually laughs and goes, ha, oh, children and their imagination, it's so cool, until they get violent. Basically just I thought Gloria was about to start beating this little kid's ass. She was about to throw up a set here and get pugilistic with her. Gloria was just immediately weird. But then she's seen here during the vanishing of the little girl. And she starts telling the older sibling, look, imaginary friends are real. Usually they're benevolent, helpful spirits that kids grow out of. But sometimes there's evil ones that latch on to a child and feed off their imagination. And Jessica had such a creative, vibrant imagination that imaginary friend didn't want to lose her. So actually stole Jessica into the imagination dimension, and Jessica eventually escaped. But now it's lived in that house for all these years, and has taken Alice, the little girl, to try and get Jessica back. So we've got to do something. So now they've recruited the Avengers here. They got Gloria, the geriatric old octogenarian. They've got Jessica, and they've got the older daughter. They perform the ritual themselves, open up the portal, and confront Chauncey directly, whom takes on the form of a real ferocious bear. And Gloria reveals herself to be a villain where she traps them in the imagination dimension because Gloria said that Chauncey gave her the directions to where they'd be promised this land of freedom where they can be young again. Their imagination comes to life. Imagination has power here, this and that. And then she eventually gets slapped by Chauncey, dragged into a room, and then blows up into an explosion of blood. So that's how Gloria dies. She's also the only death in the movie, for some reason. Sorry, my nose was running because this shit is actually making my sinuses flare up. But yeah, so Gloria's dead now, and no one cares. So they just go on and keep looking for Alice. They eventually find Alice, who doesn't want to leave initially until Jessica starts breaking things, and then Alice is like, this is fun, I'll start breaking things. Okay, I'm ready to leave. Bye, Chauncey. And then Chauncey just kind of lets them leave, but then grabs Jessica and is like, you're not leaving, I like your imagination a lot, so you're staying here with me. And again, he's still in this giant bear shape, and it looks terrible. It looks absolutely terrible. I don't know, like, I understand these movies are supposed to be made low budget, but you can do better creature designs. Like, from a design perspective, you can do better than what this has to offer. And maybe just don't show it so point blank, because then you really see all of its flaws. So she's being taken by this goddamn fucking Five Nights at Freddy's throwaway animatronic looking bear, and then gets saved by the older sibling, who grabs her and gets her out of there. But then there's another twist, because it turns out she didn't actually save her. It wasn't a happily ever after. Jessica's still there. And then they just repeat it where the girl goes in and saves her again. And then they burn the house down. I've skipped quite a bit of the movie, but it doesn't matter. You're not going to watch it anyway. No one was planning to. But I already went there and saw it, so I just got to fucking talk about it because it's so stupid. It's so dumb. It's just, it's a movie that's made for the sake of just putting a movie out there to try and get some money in return, because it's so cheap, you will make a profit off it. Like, it's a smart business strategy, and I've always said that about Blumhouse. It's a really smart business strategy. And there's probably, like, some kind of tax write-off element for it, too, I imagine. So, like, these movies, like Imaginary, they fucking suck. Like, this one was at points fun bad, I will say. There were definitely fun bad moments of it, but it still wasn't worth seeing in any capacity. But, oh well. Yep, so that's Imaginary in a nutshell. There's nothing good about it. Like, I guess there's a couple of decent ideas, and by a couple I mean one, where, like, the twist is the bear was never really there. And then, like, I guess the fake out ending, which was totally meaningless and didn't really do anything, I guess that was a creative idea too. But they also only let that twist sit for like 2 seconds, where they get her out and then it's immediately a happily ever after, and she's like, no, I'm still here. And then they immediately get her out, and then it's the real happily ever after. It's just, I don't know, bad movie. Very bad movie. That's really about it. See ya.